Okay, so I had to split this file up. So I started running out of space on my phone. So anyway, last thing I covered is deploying a mech. It gives you an ability. You can see all that. It says, it looks like actually, and I was wrong. I said it gives you your movement. Two characters can move 2 spaces instead of 1, but it's actually just mechs and the character piece, not workers. So, and incidentally, workers get across the river by riding mechs. So once you're in a space with workers and mechs, they can pick up as many as they want, drop off as many as they want, cross the river. Again, he can go to the forest, cross the river, drop them there, come back here, grab this one, bring them over. But anyway, Riverwalk's a big one in this game. Everybody has some type of Riverwalk ability, even if it has a different name. So anyway, that's what that ability is at the bottom. Deploy your mechs. And right now it's paying 4, but again, we talked about if you upgrade, you can actually put 2 square wooden pieces here, and it would only cost you 2 to upgrade. So upgrading this as soon as possible to get the most mechs out will really help. Third zone, move your piece, announce your bolstering after you bolster, for this faction, of course. You can pay 3 wood to build and get 3 gold. So if I had 3 wood resources, which I don't, but if I had 3, I could pay that and build with a person on a territory that has a worker on it. You got 4 things to build: windmill, armory, monument, and a mine. Pick whichever one you want. Say I'm going to choose mine and put it wherever you have a worker. Boom. Now the mine gives you the ability to move from that mine entrance to any existing mine on the board. So that's another way you can cross. But you can actually get way over here. So with 1 space of movement now, I can move from this entrance all the way to that mine entrance if I wanted to. So mines are pretty sweet. But every time you build any of the 4, it gives you a benefit. So if you build a monument, it goes on the board. And now, when you bolster, you pay 1 gold to do one of these 2. Increase your power or get combat cards. And also you gain 1 popularity on the popularity scale. So that helps you there. This one here, when you trade, you'll also be able to go up 1 on the power scale. And then when you put a mill out, you'll now, even if that upgrade hasn't been upgraded yet, you get 1, 2, 3 resources, with one of the resources being where the mill is. So you might notice in your faction or your strategy, whatever, you need wood the most. So you place your mill at wood. Now every single time you produce, that will produce 1 wood. But obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but once a building is placed, it cannot be moved. And then, like I said, when you build, you also get 3 gold. So building's pretty sweet. The last zone, move your meeple or your character piece or player piece to the last zone. For this one, it's the move zone. So I announce, okay, I'm going to move. And then after I move, I now can enlist. Okay, cost me 3 food to enlist. It's got a little rank symbol with a hard hat on. And of course, get 1 gold as well. The way you enlist is simple. You take one of these 4 circles at the bottom, off of where the bottom is, and you choose on your faction to place it on one of these 4 circles. Gives you that immediate benefit. So I take this circular wood piece and I put it here. I'm going to be able to move my power up 2. If I put it here, I get 2 gold. If I put it here, I'm going to be able to move my heart up 2 on the popularity track. If I put it here, I get 2 more combat cards. Let's say I place it there. I get 2 combat cards. Now, the really cool thing about enlisting is you get the immediate benefit when you do it, but then for the entire rest of the game, anytime you or the player to your right and the player to your left, that's why there's 3 and you're the middle one, anytime any of these 3 players enlists, I get a combat card as well. This one is to get a loyalty, so anytime any other player on my right or left or myself builds, I get to go 1 up, move my heart 1 up on the popularity track. This one, anytime me or the player to the right or my left deploys a mech, I get a gold coin. And lastly, anytime myself or the player to the right or my left upgrades, I get to move 1 up the power track. So enlisting is pretty sweet. But remember, the goal of the game is to get as much, to have the most gold when the game ends. And the game ends whenever someone gets all 6 of their stars there. And now that I've told you how everything works, you should be able to figure out, once you do all 6 of your upgrades, once you deploy all 4 of your mechs, once you build all 4 of your buildings, once you've recruited all 4 of your enlistments, once you've produced all 8 of your workers, once you've accomplished 1 objective, once you've won in combat twice, once you've moved your popularity to 18 on the popularity track, or lastly, once you've moved your power to 16 on the power track, place a star. And you can even see on here, it says, hey, you've reached here, place a star. On the popularity track, you reach there, place a star. So like I said, this board is very directional, kind of ruly on the face of it, all by itself. And obviously you can see strategically when you're making your decisions, like I said, these are going to be in different places for different players, but everybody has the same decisions. But for one player, produce might be above build. And if they have this upgraded and this upgrade and they've already built the mill, they're going to be able to produce 4. So if they have the build underneath the produce, they can produce and build in the same turn because they can produce whatever they need to then build in the same turn. So again, extremely strategic as to how you want to go about it in your decision making. But this is what you need to get the really cool stuff, and this is what you get when you move to these zones. So your turn is basically that simple. If you got a bunch of people that know what they're doing, it can be your turn in the blink of an eye. Incidentally, you need to pay attention to this too. And incidentally, that's why you need to announce what you're doing. Because every time you announce what you're doing, then someone knows that they have they've enlisted the ongoing recruit benefits of the upgrade. You say, okay, because these are going to be different, so they won't be able to associate bolster with upgrade. For you, it may be bolster and upgrade. So you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to bolster. You move your player piece over and you say, I'm going to bolster. And then the bottom half of that, theirs might be upgrade. So they're going to say, okay, now I'm going to upgrade. And then that's when this person should be like, oh, wait, I get to go 1 up on the power track. So you got to pay attention to what you have enlisted, because it's not anyone else's job to tell you, oh, yeah, you need to move up the power track. Don't forget. Hopefully you got some nice players and they'll hook you up, especially at first when you're first playing. But it's your responsibility. And then, we kind of had a house rule. If you missed it, you can't be like a turn or 2 later and be like, oh, I forgot to go up my power track. We don't play that because people can be mistaken. They could have done it, and then 2 turns later they think they didn't, and then they do it twice. So just got to remember when it's time. So if anybody questions it, you can prove it. Okay, so just the other odds and ends. Like I said, you have these encounter tokens on the board. When your character, and only your character, moves onto a space with an encounter token, not an encounter symbol, but an encounter token, you draw out of the encounter deck, which is this green one. And they all give you 3 options to choose from. It's all great art. It's a beautiful game. And you pick one of those 3 options you want to do. You can read on these the examples of them. It's all pretty self-explanatory. Once you've done the encounter, this gets removed from the game. So it shows that that encounter's already been had. So no one else can get it. Like I said, only your character piece gets that benefit. Also, in the middle of the card or deck, you'll see the factory. And the factory deck, which I showed earlier. When your character piece only reaches the factory, that player gets to look through this deck and pick one card to take. Okay, let's say I look through it and I pick the top one anyway. This basically gives you a new section of your factory to play with. So you just place it at the end. Now this factory has 5 spots. So I move my player piece here, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to my bonus factory, pay 2 gold, and now I can put a building where I have one of my workers, and go up 1 heart on the popularity board. And then the second part is to move. And you'll note in this move, it's got 2 separate people times 1. This is 1 block with 2 movements on it. So you can move 1 of your characters, you know, a mech, or not characters, I shouldn't say it. You can move 1 of your figures, either the mech or a worker or the character, 2 spaces. That's the second half. Incidentally, I think on all the factory cards, this is all the bottom row of the factory cards is to move 1 figure 2 spaces. Top is different though, and that's what's going to help you decide what you want to do. So, again, this works the same as other building. I just put 1 building where I have a worker, pick 1, doesn't matter which one, and then I gain 1 heart of popularity. So that's the factory. So we got 2 more basic things. 1, combat, and 2, scoring. I'm probably going to have to split that up too because my battery's going to die on my phone. Piece of crap phone. But anyway, combat, the way it works is, let's say purple has a mech here. Whenever a mech or a character move into the same space, they must fight. You don't have a choice. The way you fight is that's where these 2 dials come in. Doesn't matter who gets what, but each involved player grabs a dial and decides how much power they want to spend to beat the other player. You can only spend as much power as you have. So I'm black. I only have 1 power right now. So you take this dial and turn it to 1, where the 1 corroborates with the power emblem. And that's the power I'm going to spend in this fight. And then this is where the combat cards come in. Combat cards just have a bunch of numbers on them. You can spend 1 combat card for each mech or character piece you have in battle. So hypothetically, I had a couple mechs out. It was my character card and 2 mechs. I could put 3 power card or 3 combat cards with my power to decide how much power I'm gonna use. Same thing with the opposing team. If they had more than 1 mech in there, they only have 1 mech, so they can only use 1 power card. I only have 1 mech. I only use 1 power card. Incidentally, all this is optional. I can use 1 power card. I don't have to. I may not have any, and I still can fight. I may not have any power, and I still can fight. I can put this on 0. But so say I choose 1 and this combat card, which is a 3, you're supposed to place it behind the dial, kind of hidden like this. The other player does the same thing. You both turn your dials. This doesn't hold it very tight. But anyway, you both turn your dials upside down on the table. way we do it in my house, I don't think this is a rule. I think it says simultaneously, actually. But once you have both your dials on the table, it doesn't really matter to me. So I just go with attacker first, reveals. And my power number with the power I'm using and my card is 4. As you can imagine, whatever they spent, purple has 0 power, so that I know their dial's going to say 0, but they may have a card. I think there's like cards up to 10. Well, actually, the cards shown are here, actually. There's 6 cards with 5 power. That's what this chart is for. There's 8 cards in this deck with 4 power, 12 with 3. So, if you see all the big power, you can kind of do mathematical deduction there that, I've seen like 3 or 4 5s. The odds of them having a 5 isn't good. That kind of, stuff, if you want to think about it that deeply, which I'm sure some people will, of course. So anyway, purple could have they'd have to have 0 on their dial because they don't have any power, but they could play a 5 card, and I've played 4, so they could win. So that's easy. Whoever uses the most power with their power available on their power track and a card wins. Now, once you're done with the fight, you discard your combat card. Both players discard any used combat cards. And the loser must retreat. All retreat means is you take your mech or character and or workers and put it back at your home base. That's retreating. But when you retreat, you get the benefit of drawing you draw 1 combat card as you retreat. And now I've won a combat, so I get to put a star on the win a combat spot of the objective, chart there. And lastly, whenever a character or a mech moves into a spot, if there's ever any workers there and there's no opposing character or mech, the workers just run away. They retreat all the way to home, period. So the same kind of thing happens whenever they lose and their mech and their character or both or goes back to home. The worker also goes back to home. For every worker that has to retreat home, whether it's just you moving into a territory and scaring them away or beating an opponent's character or mech that has them with them and them also having to retreat, you lose 1 heart on the popularity track for each worker you do that to. So if there's a worker here and I just move my guy in here and scare that worker away, I lose 1 popularity, even though there's not a fight. But it happens whenever they retreat. Workers have to retreat, and it also happens whenever you just scare workers away. So there's a couple other special abilities, like the expansion I have with Invaders from Afar, I believe it is. That's what came with the green and the purple faction. They have extra abilities. You're just going to have to read their rule books. They come with these 4 tokens. The purple faction comes with 4 tokens. And the green faction comes with 4 extra little tokens as well. Can't really see them with my focus, but there's 3 there and 1 here. There's the kind of special abilities that those factions get that are with the expansion. But the 5 that come with the core game are all the rest aside from those 2. And that's the game. So, again, the game ends whenever someone accomplishes 6 of the 10 options. And do it how you want. The strategy in this game is amazing. As far as the options. You can work on just getting your popularity up. You can work on just getting your power up. You can work on just attacking the other teams if you want. You can work on, upgrading everything to make everything more valuable for cheaper at the bottom. Get your mechs out, You're going to wish you had more than 1 option every turn. But you only got 1, so choose it wisely. The end of the game is easy as well, the calculating. Wherever your heart is corroborates with these gold. So you get 7 to 12, you get this gold. You get 13 to 17, you get this gold. 4, how many stars you have? how many territories you can control, and 2 of every resource you control. So right now I'm black. So just to calculate this real quick, I did win a combat, so I would have 1 star there. So if the game would end now, I'd get 3 gold for that 1 star. I control, and incidentally, control means you have a mech, your character piece, or a worker in an area with no opposing players, or you have a building built in an area with no opposing players. But the buildings never move, incidentally. If another opposing player moves here, now they control that area, but that's still always going to be my building. So they can't utilize it. But anyway, I don't have that building out. So as of right now, I get 2 gold for every territory I control. I control 1, 2. I only control 2. Even though I have resources here, that doesn't count. I only control 2 territories, so I get 2 times 2. I get 4 gold for this one. And then I get 1 gold for every 2 resources. I've got 4, so I get 2 gold for that. So if the game were to end now, I'm black, I would get 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9. So, if the game were to end now, I'd get those 9 gold from the chart. But then also, I never explained what this last thing is here. You remember you put 1 at the bottom of the chart at the beginning. This is a kind of universal objective for everyone as well. You're going to have to read the book to see what all these are. This one is buildings in a row, consecutively in a row. Again, I don't have any buildings, so I get no gold here. But let's say I looked like this. I put out my armory here, and I put out my monument here. I'd have 2 buildings in a row. So I'd get 4 gold for this objective, this universal objective as well. Say if I built like this, though, those aren't in a row. Doesn't count. I'd have 1 building in a row. I'd get 2 gold. So basically, as long as you put out a building, you're going to get 2. But anyway, and that's how the scoring. Whoever has the most gold wins. And that's it. Scythe. Amazing game. I love it. I hear mostly praise for this game from everyone else I watch videos for, hear podcasts, talk to people. I have heard a couple negative opinions, but they weren't really negative to the game. They just think if you're going to play this type of game, there's better games. But in my experience, this is the best type of game that I've ever played. I think it's my 2nd favorite game of all time right now. And there's 2 more expansions. I actually have one. I don't even know how to play with it yet, so I didn't really bring it up. But one gives you ships, and then another expansion gives you more encounter cards. And then I think there might be 3. There's another one that is like a campaign play, kind of a book almost, so you kind of follow the way it plays, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, lots to do in this. Endless possibilities. Lots of fun. Scythe. Let's play.